Hello, all. Greetings from my living room today on Wednesday, April 1st, April Fool's Day. Hopefully, you guys got your jokes off. They probably weren't funny, but all in good fun. It's a beautiful day outside, so I appreciate any of you that are watching. Before we get into this, please let me know in the chat how I sound. Obviously, sound is a recurring issue on this podcast, so I just want to make sure that you guys can hear me well, and we're not all wasting our time here. It's just going to be me. Sorry to disappoint anyone who thought Politi would be joining us. Just gonna go, go through myself solo on the latest stuff at Rutgers. We haven't really had a show in a while, and there is plenty to talk about recently with spring football starting, with the basketball team playing in the Crown tomorrow night, gymnastics competing in NCAA regionals tomorrow, and some spring sports getting into full swing. We'll talk about whatever you guys want to talk about. I will let the conversation be dictated by the chat. Any questions you guys may have, anything you guys want me to answer in particular, or anything you want me to talk about in particular. But if there are no questions in the chat at any point, I'll kind of just barrel through and talk about the latest happenings at Rutgers. I appreciate our longtime supporter, Kiri, letting me know that we sound good and that I look like a stud. Much appreciated. He asks if I am making the trip to Vegas. I am not. I would have been on a plane tonight if I was. Just can't really justify making another trip to Vegas. This would be our fourth trip to Vegas in the past 16 months. Wouldn't be great for me personally, and I don't think we can justify as a company flying out to Vegas for this tournament where I don't know if you guys care about how the sausage is made, but there's no real access beyond the press conferences. And I don't know if it would make sense for us to go there, be the only local outlet there, ask questions, and then really not reap the benefits of it. And especially for a tournament that I'm not sure there's a lot of interest. You guys tell me in the chat, are you guys interested in this game? Do you care that Rutgers is in the Crown? Are you going to stay up until 10:30 tomorrow night to watch them play Creighton? The interest in the team was waning by the end of the year. I should say it really wasn't even there most of the season. It was really bad by the end of the year as far as interest in the team and what we were writing. And most people have had this season is done for a while. And I don't think that, essentially I'm not going to Vegas because it's not worth it for us as a company. So I don't think anybody else on the beat is going to Vegas either. So Rutgers will be there quietly, and we will have to kind of depend on people on the ground in Vegas to ask Steve Peichel questions after any of the games they play in Las Vegas. Are any of you guys making the trip to Vegas? I know you had about 2 or 3 weeks to plan it out. It is Easter weekend, which complicates things as well. And you don't know how long they're going to be. They could be there for a day. They could be there for 2 days. They could be there, or I should say 3 days. They could be there for 4 days. So we shall see there. Again, Rutgers plays Creighton tomorrow night, 10:30 in the first round of the college basketball crown. If they do win, they would play the winner of a game between Stanford and West Virginia. So either they get the Brett McConnell Bowl. Brett McConnell is an assistant coach at Stanford and was recently named the head coach at Dartmouth. Congratulations to Brett, former Rutgers student manager, longtime assistant at Princeton. He gets his first head coaching job at Dartmouth. I'm not sure if he'll be on the bench necessarily, but he's a part of the Stanford coaching staff. And the West Virginia is obviously the Kelly Zinn Bowl. Kelly Zinn, the Rutgers athletic director, graduated from West Virginia, is a West Virginia native, and worked at West Virginia for a long time. So that would be an interesting matchup for her. Obviously, though, Rutgers has to beat Creighton. But before getting to that, Akiri asks how this works. You lose and you're done. Yes, this is a single elimination tournament. 8 teams, 3 rounds, starts in the quarterfinals. Tonight, actually, Oklahoma plays Colorado, Baylor plays Minnesota. Then tomorrow we have Stanford, West Virginia, Rutgers, Creighton. And then day off on Friday, and the semifinals are April 4th, 10:30. These are local times. 1:30 a.m. tip for the first game. Rutgers, if they make it to the semifinals, will play 4 p.m. on Saturday, leading into the Final Four. Say what you will about this Rutgers basketball program. They are one of the last teams standing in college basketball. They're one of the last 8 teams in the Crown. Then there's 4 teams in the NIT and 4 teams in the NCAA tournament. So Rutgers is one of the last 16 teams playing college basketball right now. And if they win, Thursday, they will be playing in the lead-in game to the Final Four. People that want to, get their college basketball fixed before the Final Four can tune in to watch Rutgers basketball, and before watching the first Final Four game, which I'm not even quite sure which one it is. I've been kind of tuning it out, but it'll be an interesting matchup. Creighton is very much a perimeter-oriented team, and kind of the antithesis of Rutgers. They are 24th nationally in three-point rate. They take 48.2% of its shots on threes, and they have the 11th lowest opposing three-point rate. Opponents only take 32% of their shots against them from threes, which works out for Rutgers in that Rutgers is a 281st nationally in a three-point rate. They only shoot 34.6% of their shots from three. So this will be a game that will essentially be decided on the perimeter. I think Creighton could win this game by 20 or it could lose by 10, depending on whether or not the shots are falling. It's kind of what you get when you play the three-point lottery. And Creighton went 15-17 this year and 9-11 in the Big East, so they didn't win the lottery more often than not. Rutgers could send Greg McDermott to retirement. He announced he's retiring after this season. This could be his last game if they lose, obviously. So that'll be the interesting part. The thing with Greg McDermott that stands out to me, when Rutgers was in the Players Era tournament the first time, not this season, the year before, some of the fun being in Vegas, all these people congregated, is you could walk around the floor and sometimes you just see random people playing games. I've talked about seeing Tyson Acuff at the craps table. I saw Greg McDermott at a blackjack table just ripping it. And from what it looked like, he was smiling, having a good time. That was just one of the fun perks of the Players Era Festival. I hope I'm not getting either of those guys in trouble, but I think it's pretty natural that when you have a bunch of people in Vegas, they're going to be wanting to play some of the games. But anyway, I think Rutgers has a chance to win here. Obviously, you can never really tell what will happen in these late season tournaments. There is incentive here, obviously, for these guys, because if they win the first game, they lock up. I think $50,000. I think you lock up $50,000. If you make it to the final, you lock up $100,000 with a chance of making $300,000 as a team collectively. So there's a money aspect to this that will incentivize people to play. It's why I'm assuming a lot of these teams voted to play in this, and why there will be some extra juice, I would say, from the player side. Rutgers is a 4-point dog on KenPom. That sounds about right to me. Final score is 76-72 Creighton. That gives Rutgers about a 33% chance of winning one out of every three matchups. I could see that happening. Looks like Rutgers will be healthy. They had to release their travel roster per Crown rules, which I appreciate, and I think others appreciate the required transparency. Everyone that was expected to be there was on it. Dorian Jones was not on it, but that's because he hasn't traveled all year. Right, he's dealing with his academic stuff, so he's not allowed to travel, I don't think. But he hasn't traveled all year. Wasn't at the Big Ten tournament. Won't be here in Vegas. But everyone is there. Tariq Francis was reported by Asbury Park Press. Was limited in practice with a lower leg injury. I believe that was the wording. It looked like he was moving around fine in a couple of social media posts I saw yesterday. I would expect him to play. And I think Rutgers was going to need him to play to have any chance of keeping up with Creighton, especially if they're going to be bombing threes. So, I'll be watching, obviously, because I have to, because it's my job. I wonder how many people will be watching on TV and how many people will be in there in person. I'm sure there will be, a contingent flying out, and there's a contingent of Rutgers fans. I imagine some retirees living in Las Vegas and some people that live on the West Coast that have a chance to watch Rutgers in person, a rare chance outside of the West Coast swing, that will want to make the trip and go there and have an excuse to be in Las Vegas in April. Unless there's anything else you guys want to talk about basketball-wise, you guys, again, can throw that stuff in the chat. I'll move on to spring football. Rutgers opened spring football camp last week officially. Greg Schiano met with us on Friday. Kirk Shiraka met with us on Saturday, and we met with Travis Johansson yesterday. The big storyline in the spring and all off-season probably will be the quarterback battle between AJ Serace and Dylan Lonergan. Both Shiraka and Schiano said that things will play themselves out. They didn't really tip their hand either way. We've discussed the merits of each candidate and where they stand previously on a pod, and Politi and I will rehash this next time we have a podcast, which, if I had to guess, will be next week. No promises, obviously, but whenever we do speak again, we'll rehash it again, and we'll rehash it probably all off season. I think, I go back and forth. Right now, I am leaning Lonergan. I think I'm open to change, subject to change. We have not seen either player throw a single pass, right? We have not been in practice. So I don't have any data to work with, right? I have the same data I had when Lonergan committed, which is that Lonergan has the advantage of being a college football starter at a Power 4 program, namely Boston College. He's a former 4-star recruit handpicked by Nick Saban. That's not meaningless. That does mean something. Nick Saban, towards the end, was picking some pretty good quarterbacks when he has obviously the pick of the litter. And he has followed somewhat of the trajectory of Ethan Kaliakmanis as a former 4-star recruit who has starting experience coming to Rutgers, looking for a fresh start, and is working for a guy in Kirk Ciarrocca who has gotten the best out of quarterbacks to a certain extent in the right cases, certainly with Kaliakmanis for the 2 years he was here. And he seems to really be high on Dylan Lonergan. Was a bit short in his answer when we asked him about Lonergan, but our understanding is that he's pretty high on the kid and was enthusiastic to get him in the program. And then AJ Surace does not have the experience, obviously, that Lonergan does, but he does have the knowledge of Ciarrocca's system. He's been here for 2 years. He has learned under Ethan Kaliakmanis, seen what it takes to be successful in the system, knows what Kirk Ciarrocca wants, and that can give him a leg up when Lonergan is spending some time here learning the system. We'll see. Ultimately, what matters is who is the better quarterback, right? Coaches always talk about who gives us the best chance to win. Who is the best quarterback is going to be the answer here. I think right now where I sit, I think the answer to that question is Dylan Lonergan, but we'll know more. There's no spring game to take notes off of either. I think we'll be able to watch a scrimmage or two as a media contingent. I'm not totally sure on that right now, but certainly closer to training camp, we'll be able to watch more, and there's no telling if there will be an answer there or not. There are two questions here about whether A, will Rutgers know who their starter is at the end of spring camp, and B, will the rest of us know? Will that be made public, whether that through the coaching staff telling the players and then disseminating to us? Will that be made public through a leak of other kind from someone else? Who knows? I think history shows that we won't know until closer to the season, but with the Ethan Kaliakmanis and Gavin Wimsatt battle, we knew at the end of spring, but that was because Gavin wanted to transfer. The spring transfer portal window was still a thing. At this point, it's no longer a thing, so there's no real impetus here for them to announce who the starter is, other than wanting to get out in front of it. But again, history with this program and under Greg Schiano is that if they don't have to tell us something, they will not. So we shall see. I think it'll be an interesting battle. And I as of right now, we're sitting Wednesday, April 1st at 1:13 p.m. I'm leaning Lonergan, but I would not be surprised if AJ Surace wins it. I think for Rutgers, the interesting question to me is, do you want someone to be the clear winner, right? I think in an ideal scenario, if you're asking me, Dylan Lonergan blows away, or I guess even AJ Surace blows away the other, and they're the clear-cut starter, right? Because I think if you have two guys competing back and forth and you're not entirely sure, it could be good in the sense that they're both so good that you can't decide between the two. But more often than not, when you're in that situation, it's neither of them have stood out, and you're kind of trying to pick which is less bad, if that makes sense. Not to imply that they're bad, but I'm saying if there's no clear-cut winner, it's closer to that side than the other, right? Which obviously would be the best case scenario, but I think the most realistic scenario is that one guy blows out the other, and either way, if you're Rutgers, you're in a better situation you are now than you would be if you didn't get a transfer portal quarterback, no matter who is the starter. So that's that. But there's other things happening in spring football. Greg Schiano announced that Keyshawn Griffin got a waiver for a 6th year defensive tackle, and Zaire Engoy also put in a waiver and is waiting for an answer, but can never have enough depth and experience at that position. Rutgers bolstered it some through the transfer portal, but it's been a position of weakness for a while, and the more bodies you have in there to throw in and around and rotate, the better, right? And he'll no telling if he'll continue to be a starter with Doug Blue Eli recovering and coming back and expected to be the leader in that unit. But no matter what position he plays, he's going to get 15, 20 snaps a game, probably, if I had to guess. And you could do a lot worse than Keyshawn Griffin as far as filling in those snaps. You need top-end talent, obviously, but you need good depth. And I think him coming back is a good sign for Rutgers. It was expected, but it was good of Greg Schiano to confirm that for us. We have a question here from Goldie Law. I'm behind, so apologies if you addressed it. What's the feeling of a staff shakeup for men's hoops? We'll watch tomorrow, but the offseason is more important. I'll start with the last sentiment. I think that's the general fan sentiment here that, it's Rutgers basketball. People will watch it. It's college basketball. It's something that won't be available to watch for the next 7 months. So it's something to pay attention to. But the more important thing is what's going to happen for next season. Who are the players coming in and out? What are the shakeups going to be? Because that will have much more of an impact, obviously, on next year's team. I don't know. The feeling, I think you have to, right? I think if you're Steve Peichel, you have to make a change, some sort of a change, even if it is a bare minimum, symbolic change. You take someone from the end of the bench and tell them to move on or get them another job and fill someone else. I think there will be some change. The question is how much change and how high level of a change. I think it's pretty fair to say that unless he gets a head coaching opportunity, Brandon Knight is going to come back. I don't think there are head coaching jobs available that would fit in the very narrow scope of being interested in Brandon Knight, being able to pay Brandon Knight money that would justify him leaving this position, because he's making more money than most low major head coaches are, right? He's making $800,000 a year between salary and retention bonus. That's a lot of money for a Division I assistant, let alone a head coach at a lower level. So unless that perfect marriage appears, or Brandon is hell-bent on getting a head coaching job, which I don't think is the case, I think he is pretty likely to come back, which would mean Tariq Francis is almost certain to come back. The question is, I would also say Jay Young is almost certain to come back. I don't know why. Again, unless he gets a head coaching job, there's always that caveat here. But I think with the way things ended for him at Fairfield, and I think there's still some things he has to work out, maybe let the stink of that continue to melt off for another year or two. But I think Rutgers is very glad to have him back. I think Steve Peichel is very glad to have him back. So I would assume that he's back. I think there's some question about TJ Thompson and Smoke Williamson. I think TJ Thompson has a leg up in having a very close relationship with Steve Peichel, a man who was very clearly loyal. Smoke Williamson, not directly connected to Peichel, other than the 3 years he's been working under him, more closely aligned with Brandon Knight. So I could see if there has to be a sacrificial lamb, logic deduces it might be him. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. I do think, again, you have to make a change. And now the question is also like, there's one thing to make a change, but I think everyone wants to see a change in the direction of an offensive assistant coach, someone that shakes up the system and, removes the staleness from this offense that we've written about in the past. I don't know if that's going to happen. I don't know if that person is out there, right? Like someone who would be willing to come in and I don't know if that Steve Peichel is willing to give that sort of autonomy to someone to just take over the offense. I don't know if that person is out there, like this offensive guru who's willing to come in here and, it would have to be someone at a lower level who's shown some promise, is ready to make a jump up. So in any way or form, that would be a risk. Apologies. I have to send out a text really quick. Like someone just called me. I have to tell them I will call them back soon. Apologies for this terrible radio. So I guess what I'm saying here is that I think in an ideal world, Rutgers moves at least one assistant, maybe two, and brings in an proven offensive coordinator, someone who could add some life to this offense. Right? I think we all agree there. I don't know if that is likely. I don't know if that person is out there. If I had to guess, I think the answer is no, because Rutgers has struggled offensively for years and nothing's changed yet. So, and I think also people inside the program would argue that the issue is not so much the offensive system, or more so the lack of talent to make the offense work, the offense that they like to run work. I am skeptical of that thought process, obviously, but I think that would be an argument that could be made. So to answer your question, what's the feeling? I think there will be some shakeup. I don't know if it will be enough of a shakeup or the type of shakeup that would satisfy the bloodlust, understandable bloodlust that there is within you guys, the fan base, after 3 consecutive poor seasons. Curie asks, do I think the football team will make a bowl game this year? I think they better to relieve some growing angst about the last couple of years. Obviously, they were successful in 24, 7-6, but with the schedule, 7-6 probably feels a little bit short. And then last year, 5-7, falling short against Penn State, missing a bowl game. I think a bowl game is probably a minimum yearly expectation for Rutgers in the 6th year of Greg Schiano. And I think if they don't make it, it would be a bad sign. let's go through the schedule really quick. The over-under in Vegas, by the way, is 4.5. I think you could lock up 2 wins, absolutely. UMass and Howard. UMass was the worst FBS team in the country, bar none last year. And unless Joe Harris-Simiak has found 100 diamonds in the rough in the transfer portal, I don't think that's going to change much. So I think Rutgers will beat Joe Harris-Simiak's UMass Minutemen pretty handily. Boston College is the swing game in the entire season. Non-conference schedule, certainly, probably for the entire season. This is the kind of game that you need to win to make a bowl game, probably, if you're Rutgers. They have been very successful against ACC teams since Greg Schiano's come back. One at Syracuse, one at Boston College, one home and away against Virginia Tech. So Rutgers needs to continue that against this Boston College team. They might have a starting quarterback who came from Boston College, which is an interesting twist here. My gut says they win at Boston College. I think that, whatever you want to say about the Rutgers football program, I think it's in a better position now, financially and under Greg Schiano, stability-wise, than Boston College is under Bill O'Brien. They had, they've had some good wins in the last couple of years, but they had a really rough year last year. And again, I think Boston College's NIL and revenue share apparatus is worse than Rutgers, believe it or not. So I would lean towards Rutgers having an advantage here, and it's not like Alumni Stadium in Chestnut Hill has this raucous home field advantage either. So I would guess Rutgers wins that as well. So we're assuming a 3-0 non-conference slate. They're hosting USC. I just think the matchup there is horrible. I think they're just so much more athletic, so much more talented, and I don't know if it'll be as bad as it was in LA a couple of years ago, but I just think they're so much better, frankly. So I probably think it's a loss. Indiana, a loss, unless they take a huge step back from last year's national championship win. At Maryland, I think Maryland is bad, and Mike Locksley is on his very, very, very last thread. So Rutgers has dominated Maryland recently, so I would say Rutgers beats Maryland. At Northwestern, at their new stadium, interesting game, another swing game, right? Because right now we're at 4-0. We're now at 4-2. Swing game right here because Northwestern is one of the last winnable games, because the other winnable games left are Wisconsin at Wisconsin, which even bad Wisconsin teams have beaten Rutgers handily, versus Nebraska. Nebraska is always going to be around the 6, 7, 8 win range, but they've dominated Rutgers historically as well. At Penn State will be better than last year, and Michigan State under Pat Fitzgerald, who knows, right? So, well, to answer the question, I think it's, can Rutgers win 2 of these 4 games at Northwestern, at Wisconsin, versus Nebraska, versus Michigan State? That's just the question. If you're asking me right now, do I think they will win 2 of those games? The answer is yes. I don't know how any of those other teams will look. I don't know how Rutgers will look. So it's hard for me to do. But if you're asking me right now, today, my answer is yes. Understanding that our biases of being here at Rutgers, viewing it from the Rutgers point of view, kind of shade some of that, obviously. So I don't know for certain. If I did, I would make a lot of money betting the over/under. But if you're asking me right now, I think the answer is yes. Alec brings up a good point. He says it's BC's red bandana game. It's going to be on 9/11. Certainly an emotional game. The 25th anniversary of 9/11. Incredible that it's been that long. I was 6 years old I was 5 years old when it happened. But I'll be 30 this year. Jesus Christ. Anyway, yes, a fair point from Alec. Should be an emotional game, and Boston College has had some wins on this red bandana night in the past that were surprising. So that does add some, believe it or not, it does add some questions for me on whether on Rutgers' chances for that game. So should be an exciting game either way. We've talked in the past about the need for some exciting non-conference games, because as nice as it is for Rutgers to get 3 easy wins, with 2 MAC opponents and an FCS opponent last year, I think having an early game with some juice, it's not the best for your schedule. It's not the best for your record, but I think it's the best for the fans and the program and the sport to have some excitement early on. I think if Rutgers wins that game, it does add more momentum than if you would have beaten Miami of Ohio. I really do. I think there's some value in that as well. And it gives you an early challenge before playing into the Big Ten, because it's one. Boston College is not USC by any stretch of the imagination, but it does come closer than Miami of Ohio does to USC. Those two programs are in different stratospheres. Boston College, at least, is another Power 4 program. getting back to football, we talked about Keyshawn Griffin. We talked about the quarterbacks. Greg Schiano had an interesting comment about how this is the most talented team he's had since coming back, as far as he did have the caveat of, a lot of it is young. So he's talking about a lot of the recruiting wins they've had, high school talent they brought in, guys even like Whitey Collier, who was here last year, but just turned 18 this year. So I think that it's important to take that with a grain of salt, in that they might have a lot of talent. A lot of it is young, and a lot of it might not be on the field next year, right? Like, this might be, if they're able to retain these guys for a couple of years, that's when the talent will show, which is not what people want to hear. And it would have been much more impactful 10 years ago, obviously. But I think it's a good sign if Greg Schiano is saying that. Greg doesn't strike me as the kind of guy who would just throw that out there. I think he's pretty calculated with his words. So, I'll take his word for it, and I believe it. They've had some good recruiting wins over the last cycle, and now it's just a matter of getting those guys on the field. And the other thing he said was that the corner room will be the most competitive. I think that's by default, obviously, and I think he meant that to a certain extent, because 3 starters are gone, right? And now they had to fill all those spots. Kevin Humes from Maryland, Zamir Daoud from Villanova, and a few other corners, some young corners, and they brought in another corner whose name is completely escaping me. And I'm going to look it up so I don't leave him off. Let's see. Kevin Humes, Zamir Daoud, and Bradley Jones from Citadel. I apologize to Bradley Jones. He is also in the mix there, and they have other younger cornerbacks. Greg Schiano called out Kevin Levy, specifically a rising sophomore, who played a bit last year, as having a great offseason. So that's another name to watch. Rutgers does rotate its quarterbacks to a certain extent, so not necessarily only 3 guys there, but we'll see how that plays out very early in the season. Hinson mentioned it when we tried to talk to him about the linebacker position, and how there's a mix of young talent, veteran returners, new transfers. Just felt like it was too early to talk about competition there and where things lie. And I would agree generally. It's the first week of spring. I haven't seen anything. They just got into pads. That's kind of the frustration of the offseason, is it takes a while to really get down to anything. If you guys have any other questions, I'll go into gymnastics. They play against Central Michigan tomorrow in the NCAA regionals. The second straight year they make it to regionals. The first time they made it in back-to-back years since 2006 through 8 or 2005 through 7. They had a 3-year stretch there in the early aughts. The point being that Anastasia Candia put in a tough spot last year as the interim acting head coach amid the Umi Salim Beasley scandal with Pat Hobbs, has now taken this program to back-to-back NCAA regionals. She rallied the team last year, and this year brought back a good contingent, got some decent additions, and rallied them from a wobbly middle part of the season to a really strong finish at their quad in March, and then at the Big Ten championships to sneak in as the 36th team in a 36-team field. They lost last year to Clemson in Tuscaloosa. This year they'll try to beat Central Michigan in Lexington. Gymnastics is a little different than other sports in that you're not competing against another team. Like, it's not like men's basketball going against Creighton. You're competing individually and trying to do better than the other opponent, but you can't impact what the other opponent does. So there's no real scouting report to be done here. The scores are pretty objective. Central Michigan has had a better score than Rutgers all season. I'm going to look up, for anyone who cares, what the season-long rankings were. Central Michigan, 31st nationally. Their average was a 195.597. Rutgers was 36 with a 195.398. So it seems marginal, but those are, that is a decent difference. So from what I understand, whatever limited gymnastics knowledge I have. So that's something to watch tomorrow. Busy day tomorrow between gymnastics and the Crown. And then we have some spring football stuff as well, practice in the morning. That's really all I got right now. We have obviously the story this morning. I wrote a Rutgers grad is suing the school for, quote, wasteful spending, lack of oversight, and other gross negligence that has harmed New Jersey taxpayers. Among the many things he wants to do, he wants to halt the ongoing waste and unlawful diversion of public funds. And by him, I mean Hector Rodriguez, a class of 75 alum who was once a judge in Franklin Township. He wants the school to order an independent financial audit He wants to prevent Rutgers from approving or funding athletic deficits using taxpayer-supported funds without legislative authorization. And the most interesting thing to me was that he demands that Rutgers makes restitution to the state of New Jersey for all of the amounts deemed to have been inappropriately used. I mean, it's a Hail Mary if I've ever heard of one, but it's news, and I didn't do the lawsuit. It's not an April Fool's joke, just to battle against all the conspiracy theories I've heard today. But it's worth checking out. It's on our website, and we have the full complaint there for anyone that wants to read it. So, does anybody else have any questions? Been going here for half an hour. It was good to chat with you guys again for the first time in a bit. We will probably do a live show after the game tomorrow night against Creighton. It'll be very late, so I doubt many of you will be there, but we'll do it just to keep the continuity with basketball. And if they win, obviously we'll do another one Saturday. And if they win again, we'll do another one Sunday, on Easter Sunday. And then Pili and I will eventually do another show again. We've been kind of staying off the radar because things have been a bit slow. But again, enough stuff has happened over the past couple of weeks that I wanted to get out in front of you guys again and just chat it through and review it, a Rutgers review. I do plan on doing something similar during the season, football season. We'll have our regular shows. We'll do our recaps on Mondays. We'll do our previews Wednesday or Thursday. We'll do our interviews still, but we'll try to have some live shows, whether that's Tuesday nights or whatever, during the year at a regularly scheduled time, so that we can all chat, debrief, and talk. And I always welcome all of your guys' questions. You can obviously ask us beforehand in my email, on Discord, on Twitter, wherever you guys want. If you have my number, text me. But otherwise, I would much appreciate when you guys throw stuff in the chat. I appreciate your engagement, and I appreciate you guys watching. As always, I appreciate any of you who subscribe. I encourage you, all of you who have not subscribed yet, to subscribe and to like this video. Tell your friends about us. If you're watching this, on not tape delay, after the fact, please like the video, share, let the people know what's happening here at the Rutgers Rant. We're going to try to keep building this channel and do more things with you guys that will keep you all engaged, and try to cover Rutgers from a interesting angle, adding to our written stuff, which we prioritize, obviously, but we build this enterprise as well. So that's all I got for you guys today. Again, unless there's any last second question in the chat, I'm going to call it and allow you guys to go outside and enjoy what, again, looks like a beautiful day before the giant thunderstorm we are expected to get tonight. Can't have anything nice for too long here, it seems like. But anyway, thanks, guys, for tuning in. Be well. See you tomorrow night after the Crown. Talk to you all later.